Hello, this is Darrell Gunter, your host for Leadership on WSOU 89.5 FM and streaming on the net at WSOU.net. Well, I'm so pleased to have Mr. Joe Murphy, who is a four-time author as well as an executive coach, as our in-studio guest. Joe, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Darrell. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you and your audience.
Well, before we jump into the great things that you're doing in executive coaching, can you share with our audience a little bit about your education and background?
Sure. I'm originally from the North, from New York, and I went to school in the South. So there was a whole cultural difference I had to go through growing up and coming to the South. I went to the University of South Carolina, the other USC, and I got a job right out of college. So I was one of those fortunate students that got a job. I landed the job, my dream job, and I was working in the computer industry. And so they taught me everything I needed to know about computers, how to sell, something you don't get too many companies anymore, with that kind of a startup background. And so I've been in the area of consulting in IT and information technology for probably about 25, 30 years. And most recently, obviously, got in the consulting business. It's been my dream job. And a company that I was working with, I'll get into this, during the pandemic, asked me, they said, Joe, can you teach leadership classes to our employees? Because everybody's gone home and they don't have anything to do. And a lot of our government, we were doing business with the government. So they say, can you teach leadership classes? And I never told anybody that I've been studying leadership for the past 30 years. Every day for 2 hours each morning, because I was a terrible manager. And what I found was leadership was a way of acting and behaving, a noble way, a good way, a responsible way, and bringing people together. And I'll tell you some more during the conversation, but it uplifted me. It made me feel good. And so right out of the blue, the way the universe works, or God, or your higher power, they said, can you teach leadership classes? And I'll say, isn't that interesting how the world works? And I've been teaching leadership classes over Zoom for the past 4 or 5 years. And then I went out on my own, and the company I was working for hired me back to continue to leadership classes because their engagement rates were so high through the leadership classes I was teaching. And so my passion has been around helping clients and customers solve business problems. But from where I grew up on the wrong side of the tracks. I grew up poor. I was a no-hoper. I didn't know anything but hard work, physical labor. And I came from a very impoverished family. So I didn't even know what, people say, don't work hard, work smart. I was like, how does that work? So here I am. I am teaching people who are much younger than me, who are at the same stage I was when I came out of college, going, okay, what is work smart? How do I advance? Is there such a thing? Is there a secret handshake? Are there deals being made in the back room? And I found out all the secrets to success. I've been studying it for the past 30 years. So that was a long-winded way of giving you some background, Darrell.
No,
But
not long-winded at all. That was absolutely perfect because, how we met. I'm on LinkedIn, you're on LinkedIn, and there was this great post that you did on the 7 essential listening skills. And I was so impressed with the post. I said, well, let me reach out to you and connect with you. But then I looked at your profile and started reading, a lot of your other posts. I said, wow, this gentleman is really capturing the essence of the best practices of leadership. So that prompted me to call you and say, hey, Joe, we just met, but I'd like to have you on my radio show because of what you're posting. And then after talking with you, I was like, boy, am I blessed. I'm lucky because this gentleman is really talking about leadership, which we've been on the air since 2009. And I don't know if I've had a guest to really go into leadership in the level of detail, and you're such a humble servant. So it's such a pleasure to have you on the program. But I want to ask you one quick question What are some of the principles of your consulting practice when you're teaching leadership?
Well, I'm a big believer that everybody deserves a chance. And what I find is people don't know that they can become anything they want to be. They that some people don't recognize that if they apply themselves toward a specific skill, if they're and one of my principles that I teach is don't worry about what other people think of you. Don't worry about failing. Don't be concerned at ridicule, because we all came up in second grade. We said something in class, and class laughed at us. And I made this comment on a worldwide event, and somebody from Saudi Arabia said, at the end of the program, it was on body language. They said, Joe, I had that exact same thing happen to me in Saudi Arabia. I got laughed at and I can't speak in front of people anymore.
Mhm.
And I said, the problem with that is it's happened to all of us.
Mhm.
And it's in our brain. It's hardwired because we've replayed the event over and over again. And if you can take control of some of your thoughts and rewire them or reprogram or recondition them with with positive thoughts, you won't understand what can happen to you. You start attracting different people. One of the other things that I talk about is take risks at work. And what I'm saying, I think the best places encourage people to try innovative ways to accomplish things. Step out of your comfort zone. Of course, everybody hears the term comfort zone, but they don't know what that means. As soon as you start feeling like you're getting on the edge and you're risking yourself, there's this barrier that says, oh, get back, get back, get back, get back. This is scary. That's when you're growing. There's only two times, maybe there's more, but there's two unique times that when we're growing. When we're out of the comfort zone and pushing ourselves and we feel uncomfortable, we feel that anxiety because it feels unfamiliar. And we want to get back rather than continue to press forward. The other time is when we fail. If we can take, and this is, it's very trite, if we could take our failure experiences and turn them in lessons of opportunity and look at those, say, okay, what did I do wrong? What did I do wrong? What can I do better? What did I learn? And then where do I go from here? The other aspect is I think all managers need to become coaches. And when I say coaches, I mean, I'm looking for people, not necessarily to have a mentor relationship, because that's a very formal thing, but as a manager, how can I help people develop their mind, develop their skills, and develop their inner voice that says, you know what, I can do this. There's a great book by Carol Dweck. It's called The New Psychology, and it's about growth mindset versus fixed mindset. And if you go through some of that, you go through her book, it is really about how do I cultivate a growth mindset where I can say, okay, I may not know this yet. I might not be able to do this yet, rather than I can't do this. And the other aspect is that IQ may be fixed. There's some debate about it, but emotional intelligence after college doesn't matter. And I don't want to say this to students who are going to school because grades do matter. But 5 years after college, nobody goes back and asks you, how'd you do in math in your third year? Did you get an A or did you get a B? They want to know you can do the job and how emotionally intelligent you are. And there's a whole program on emotional intelligence that I teach. So one of the things is you can become anything you desire to be, set a vision for yourself, start acting in the manner with the attributes that you need to have in order to attain it. Read. This is one of my big ones. Read an hour a day every morning. As soon as you get up, don't pick up the phone. Don't start scrolling, because we all do it. But read, if you can, get a physical book and take notes. I've got lots of notebooks, and I've been doing this for 30 years. I got that idea from Brian Tracy. He said, read an hour a day. And so I said, okay, let me try this. And I noticed when I started reading an hour a day every morning, I started to feel, I don't know the right word. It was like lightheaded, enlightened. And it was like, wow. I was almost like centered in alignment. And that's when I started reading leadership books every morning because of what it did for me. And, I'm not the perfect manager, but reading what other successful people did to become successful leaders and the studies behind them, I tried to cultivate the attributes and characteristics. And I try to teach that in my leadership academy. I say to people, I said, look, if you're much smarter than I am, or I was, this is what I did. It's no secret. Now, I had some doubts along the way. What am I doing this for? Well, I'm not doing anything at 5 o'clock in the morning except sleeping anyway. If I go to bed an hour earlier and I start reading for 2 hours, it became a habit. It became a success habit. And it's changed my life. And I've given that advice to countless others, and it's changed their lives as well.
I'm looking at one of your recent posts, which I love, and it's called Word Swaps for Better Psychology. I was like,
Yes.
hey, I said, I felt like Jack Nicholson, who's the Penguin in Batman. Where does he get these tools from? This is great. It says, I'm so lazy versus I'm acting lazy. I need versus I'm willing to put in the work. I can't, I haven't learned how to do that yet. That's bad. That's not as good as it could be. I have to versus I get to. This is awesome, Joe. I mean, it's like, you know, taking a situation and making it very positive and constructive.
Yes. Yes. It's going from one side of the brain, which makes you depressed, angry, and no hope. Because I was there when I was younger. I came from an area of town. There was no hope, and my friends had no hope, and we hung around with no hopers. I had a mother very fortunate who said, "You're going to college. You're going to college." So I had a goal: save all my money for college. And so I knew I had to go to college. It's a mindset shift of going from negative to what's possible. It's a possibility thinking. It's more than just being positive. It's what's possible. It's looking at things that may be going wrong and saying, what can I learn from this situation? What is the universe trying to teach me now? And it's just taking that mindset.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are here with Mr. Joe Murphy, who is a four-time author, and we're gonna find out about his books as well, and executive coach. So, Joe, tell us about the books that you've published.
Well, this is the first book I published. I wound up taking notes because I was a consultant, I was in sales, and I wanted to find out the secrets of why certain executives purchased or selected vendors or partners to be their consulting provider. And so I would ask questions. And so I would take all these notes and I would look at them and I said, I always wanted to write a book. So I took all my notes and I published a book. And I was working for a really large company at the time. I got permission to do it. But that was my first book. The second book that I did, and this was during the pandemic, I said, I've got all these notes from all these other books. Why not do the same thing I just did? So I took all my notes. And what I wound up doing, because I really had these notes written in I took notes and put them in a separate notebook, and I read them over and over again to reprogram my mind. And so I read them, and somebody wanted to see them. And I said, okay, with some apprehension, I gave a copy of the book. She said, this is really great stuff. Why don't you publish a book? So I've got a number of books, and one is it's called Zen, but it's really about affirmations more than anything else. It's affirming language that I've used for myself, but I backed it up with stories. And I did some other books that were just short snippets of paragraphs that I've written to myself about how to be better. And I compiled them, I organized them in such a way that they were categorized. And so I wrote them mostly for myself, but other people have picked them up. Somebody said, we're going to do a book club on your book. And they were from Switzerland and they asked me to join. And I was like, okay, this is interesting. And they asked me the same question. Why did you write this book? I said, originally I wrote it for myself and published it for myself. So,
And are they available on Amazon or Barnes and Noble?
they are all available on Amazon and Barnes and Noble. And I don't necessarily promote my books, but you know that, uh, but they are, yes.
Beautiful. And it's under Joe Murphy, correct?
It would be Joseph B. Murphy.
Joseph
Joseph
B.
B. as
Murphy.
in Brian. Yes,
There
sir.
we go. There we go. And while we're at it, how can someone get in touch with you to say, I wanna hire you to train my team?
Well, I'm on have my own website. It's josephbmurphy.com,
Mhm.
josephbmurphy.com, or it's cross with an X in the middle, current, crossxcurrent.com. Both both ways will get you to my site. Or they can just contact me at joe@josephbmurphy.com.
All right.
I reply to everybody,
There
and
you
I
go.
try to help as many people as I possibly can.
And so when tell us about your intake for a new client. Can you describe what the process is and how many sessions do they normally sign up for? And
So I have three clients, four clients, three clients. One was taken off for the summer, so I have four clients, but three clients. And what I do is on a regular basis, I do a 90-minute session, and these 90-minute sessions are open to everybody in the organization. Although I have one client that wants to do only for their executive team, and that's an hour long because of their time constraints, and that's once a month. But these I have one client that does once a week, and one client that does twice a week, and they're 90-minute sessions for anybody. And what I do is kind of unique. I use either they have a library that they have a subscription to. For example, Percipio is one vendor, and they have material where they have videos, and they're short snippets of thought leaders,
Mhm.
and I show the videos, and we discuss what the thought leader is saying and
Mhm.
how it fits to their values of the organization, and what does it mean in terms of becoming a manager or a leader. So, for example, Simon Sinek is a favorite amongst people. So I show a lot of Simon Sinek videos, and I pause his tape or pause his program. I say, okay, let's break down what he's really saying. How does this resonate with you? And so I facilitate the discussion. Now I have my own videos. I also bring in, again, Brian Tracy is one of my favorites, and I've got over 100 of his videos. And there's one organization, one company that the people love Brian Tracy. It's old school stuff where he gets on a whiteboard, and because he gets on a whiteboard and talks from the whiteboard,
Mhm.
they see it and hear it, and they are able to connect kinesthetically, almost feel it because he's talking, writing, and they can actually see it on the whiteboard what he's writing about. So they're taking copious notes. I have people going, okay, can you slow it down and reverse it? Because I didn't really catch what he said, but I try to pause the tape, and we talk and we discuss it. And people walk away, instead of being 90 minutes, they want to talk, and it goes sometimes 2 hours. And so I stay on, even though it's only 90 minutes. If they can, they stay on. It's a lot of fun. I have had upwards of 250 people on a call. So it's pretty amazing. People want to come. People have said to me, Darrell, they said to me, this is what I wait for every Friday, or this is what I wait for in the middle of the week. This
So are
puts
all
me
of
up.
your sessions group sessions, or do you also do the one-on-one?
I do one-on-one, but it's very how should I say, because my time is so
Sure.
pressed.
Right.
It's one of these things where it has to be a continuous and ongoing type of thing, but it's typically with executives
Mhm.
where I work with them. The rates are usually paid for by the
Of course.
corporation or
Of course.
organization.
Of course. And so with your group sessions, how do they measure success?
Well, at the end of each session, I have a survey form from Zoom,
Mhm.
and it's pretty detailed because not only do I ask to measure this session as excellent all the way down to terrible or not good, but also measure me.
Mhm.
But then I get into questions and questions that are long form. I think it's 200 characters is the
Okay.
longest Zoom will let you have. I ask, what 2 or 3 things did you learn in this session that you're going to apply? Now, I'll tell you what happens is 50% of the people respond and actually fill out these form questions.
Mhm.
And the things that they come back with, I go, I didn't even hear that during the session, but they picked up, or they picked up something I said, and I went, that was just off the cuff, but they picked it up. And then I ask, how did I do? What kind of things did I do? They're very nice people, so they give me a lot of nice compliments. Everybody's very positive. And so I've just been very lucky. And when I showed somebody the scores, again, so this person said, she said, those are great scores, but do you realize what they're writing? I said, what do you mean? He said, they're taking time to write in these blocks where people usually take a survey form, they check a couple boxes and they move on.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're actually taking their time to put the information in as to what they're learning and how it's changed them. One person said to me, this was probably where I realized that this is my calling. He said, and it was, I think the class was on the growth mindset. And he wrote, I'm a father of 2 boys. I'm a single father. I've been raising my 2 boys wrong. I can hardly wait to go back home and sit with them and hug them.
Mm.
I had another woman on a program who, at the end, started crying. And whenever you're with about 70 to 100 and some odd people, you go, okay, what did I say? I was going through my mind for 90 minutes. What could I possibly said? She said, Joe, I've been telling my daughter she's smart at school. She's smart, she's smart, she's smart. But what I learned in this program, I'm telling her the wrong thing. I need to remind her what she was doing in middle school to get those straight A's. Not that she's smart, because what that's insinuating, she doesn't need to study. She doesn't need those study groups or study circles that she had before. She didn't need to apply herself and do the things that made her successful in middle school. She needs to get back to that. I need to go over and remind her, say, let's go back through what made you successful in middle school. And so they're not only enlightening or helpful for work, and change the relationship or the dynamic between employee and manager. People are taking these leadership skills back home to their family. And I find that unique, because I was brought up, you got to separate work,
Mm.
free time.
Mm.
And today, I don't think you can do that anymore. I see it, I think the greatest compliment is you're the same person at home that you are at work. You're a good person at work with strangers. You're a good person at home with family. And I think that's one of the nice things that I think with my job now, just seeing that occur.
So I'm gonna put you on the spot because
Okay.
being a great leader requires a lot of different skill sets.
Yes.
What would you rate as the top three skill sets that a leader should have? And it's
So,
unfair. I'm starting off. It's an unfair question.
oh, it's a very fair question, actually. I think it's probably the most important question anyone can ask. In studying leadership, you've been put in charge of your people. You didn't get a manager position that because you've arrived on the throne and now you're going to, everybody report to me. It's just the opposite. You have to care about your people. If you don't care about people and you see it as only because yourself
Mhm.
and you're not a servant leader, you're in the wrong position and you shouldn't have taken the position if you don't like people and care about them. So I think it's caring. I think the second thing, and some people would say, I got it in reverse order, it is a vision. Having a vision for the team and where we're going, and letting people know and make them part of that vision, how they can contribute, their work contributes or their job contributes to achieving that vision. So that's a really critical area as well. I think the other aspect that I've seen, and these are also some of the studies. This comes out of the Coos and Posner's I believe it's the Leadership Challenge study they do every year. Vision is number one. Another one is you have to be competent. You have to be competent in not necessarily in the work that your people do, but the work that you do, and allow your people to have the autonomy to develop and to work through their job without a manager looking over them. Now, I'll caveat that just for a second. As soon as you give somebody a task or a role, a task or an assignment, you got to make sure, number one, can they do the assignment? Okay, do they have all the skills? Do they have the training? You just don't throw it to them. But then if they don't have the skills and training, you or assign somebody else has to mentor them so they don't become frustrated. Sometimes we hear this term micromanagement. We can go to the other extreme and just not do anything to help them. And then we let people, sink or swim. You don't want anybody to sink. You're responsible for them. And they're going home. They've got to, this is when I first became a manager. I had 3 grown men. I was 28 years old, and these men who were 45, they were so old, came to my office. At the time I said, they said, we need your help. And this is when I got promoted. I said, what do you mean? I said, if you don't save our jobs, if we don't find more business, because at the time it was a bad economy and companies were laying off people. He said, we won't be able to feed our families. Our children won't be able to go to college. And that's an awesome responsibility when you think about, as a leader or manager, you're not only in charge of the people that report to you, and you're caring of them, but in a way, you're responsible for their family as well. Mm-hmm. The other aspect, and this is critical as well, there's so many points, that's a great question, is who are our clients? Who do we serve? And can we serve them better? Is there innovative ways? Are there things we can do better, faster? Have we sat down and heard from them and listened from their perspective, how we're performing and what we can do differently to make sure that we're meeting their needs? Because, if we're not serving somebody else will come along to serve them. Right. And when we lose clients, we're going to wind up losing employees because of that nature of profit and loss, right, or organization, if that makes sense. Right. So number one is caring for your people. It all starts there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wow, this is great. Believe it or not, Joe, we are almost out of time, but I do have time for one more question, which is maybe if you could share with us your favorite quote about leadership or favorite book about leadership.
Wow, there's so many favorite books that I have. My favorite quote it came from Brian Tracy, and I've kind of adopted. Leadership is a way of behaving in such a manner that you inspire others to become everything they possibly can be on the way towards the goal or objective. And I love that quote because it really does, to me, embody the idea of leadership. The other one is, this is the one that changed my life. You become what you think about most of the time.
Love that. Love that. Ladies and gentlemen, we are here with Mr. Joseph B. Murphy. He's an author 4 times, and he's an executive coach. And if you have not connected with him on LinkedIn, I suggest you do that right away. Joe, thank you for coming on the program.
Darrell, I've been honored, and thank you very much. And I hope your audience gets something out of this and helps their career.
I know they will. Well, that wraps it up this week on Leadership with Darrell W. Gunter on WSOU 89.5 FM, streaming on the net at WSOU.net. We want you to have a great day, but remember, leadership begins with you.